What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, time might already be an illusion and we're all just living inside a cosmic trick? Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will shatter everything you thought you knew about reality itself. Hit that like if you're ready to question the fabric of existence, because we're diving into one of the most mind-bending questions physics has ever dared to ask. What happens if time just stops? Here's the thing that keeps physicists awake at night. Time isn't this universal river flowing at the same speed for everyone everywhere. Einstein proved that over a century ago, but what scientists are wrestling with now is way wilder. Recent experiments with atomic clocks show that time literally runs differently, just centimeters apart. We're talking measurable differences in how fast time flows between your head and your feet. Your head is aging faster than your toes right now. Let that sink in. But stopping time completely, that's where physics gets absolutely bonkers. Because if time stopped, it wouldn't just freeze you in place like some movie scene. The consequences would unravel reality in ways that make your brain hurt. Let's start with something everyone can relate to: light. Right now, light is traveling through your room at about 300 million meters per second. That's fast enough to circle Earth 7.5 times in 1 second. But light doesn't experience time at all. From a photon's perspective, the moment it's created and the moment it hits your eye happens simultaneously. Zero time passes for light. It exists in what physicists call the eternal now. So what does this mean for our frozen time scenario? If time stopped, light would stop. And I mean completely stop. Every photon in the universe would freeze mid-flight. You'd be plunged into absolute darkness instantly. But here's the kicker: you wouldn't even know it because your brain needs time to process information. The electrical signals in your neurons wouldn't fire. Your thoughts would freeze mid-think. You'd be conscious one moment, then just gone, stuck in an eternal instant that feels like nothing because feeling requires time. Recent quantum physics research has revealed something even stranger. Time might not be fundamental to the universe at all. It might be what scientists call an emergent property, something that appears only when you zoom out and look at the big picture. At the quantum level, the mathematics describing particles doesn't actually require time. It's like how wetness isn't a property of individual water molecules, but only emerges when you have billions of them together. Time might work the same way. Teams at top physics labs have been running simulations trying to model universes without time. What they found is absolutely wild. In a timeless universe, cause and effect don't exist. Everything that will ever happen, has happened, and is happening all exists in one eternal mathematical structure. Your birth, your death, every choice you'll ever make, all frozen together in what physicists call the block universe. But let's get practical for a second. What would actually happen to physical objects if time stopped? Your body is made of atoms vibrating at incredible speeds. Even at room temperature, atoms in your body are jiggling around at hundreds of meters per second. Temperature itself is just atomic motion. If time stopped, atoms would stop vibrating. And if atoms stop vibrating, temperature becomes meaningless. You'd instantly hit absolute zero, which is impossible according to thermodynamics. This is where physics starts screaming at us that stopping time might literally be impossible. Here's where it gets even weirder. Einstein's general relativity tells us that time and space aren't separate things. They're woven together into spacetime. You can't stop time without stopping space. And if space stops, what does that even mean? Space is the thing that lets objects be separate from each other. Without space, everything would collapse into a single point. The entire universe would become dimensionless. Drop a comment below. Would you want to experience frozen time if you could, knowing you'd be the only thing moving in a dead universe? Some physicists have proposed wild scenarios where time could appear to stop locally without breaking the universe. Near a black hole's event horizon, time dilation becomes so extreme that from an outside observer's view, you'd appear frozen in time forever. You'd be falling into the black hole for eternity from their perspective, while from your perspective, you'd cross the horizon in finite time and get spaghettified. Time doesn't stop, but it gets stretched so thin it might as well have. Recent advances in quantum computing have let researchers simulate what physics looks like when you remove time from the equations. The results are stunning. Without time, quantum entanglement becomes way easier to understand. Those spooky instantaneous connections between particles that Einstein called spooky action at a distance. They make perfect sense in a timeless universe because there's no instantaneous to worry about. Everything just is. But here's what blows my mind the most. Consciousness might be the one thing that creates time. Some neuroscientists and physicists are starting to think that time is something our brains construct to make sense of the unchanging mathematical structure of reality. Your memories aren't recordings of the past. They're just brain states that exist right now, creating the illusion of a past. Your anticipation of the future is just another brain state creating the illusion of a future. There's only ever now. Experiments with meditation masters and people under deep anesthesia show something fascinating. When you shut down certain brain regions, people report experiencing timelessness. Hours feel like seconds, or seconds feel like hours. Some report feeling like they existed outside of time entirely. If our brains create time, then stopping time might just mean stopping conscious observers. Let's paint a picture of what a universe frozen in time would actually look like. Imagine you're somehow immune to the freeze and you step outside. The air molecules around you have stopped moving. You try to take a step forward, but you can't, because the air molecules won't move out of your way. You're encased in a solid block of frozen atmosphere, harder than diamond. You try to breathe, but air won't flow into your lungs. Sound can't travel because sound is just air molecules bumping into each other, and they're all frozen. You're trapped in absolute silence and absolute stillness. The sun's light, which takes 8 minutes to reach Earth, has stopped halfway through its journey. The last photons to hit Earth before time stop are frozen in the atmosphere. The sky would look strange, probably darker, like someone turned down the brightness on the universe. Stars would disappear because the light that was traveling from them has stopped Gravity itself might stop working. General relativity describes gravity as curves in spacetime, and if time stops, those curves become meaningless. Planets would stop orbiting. Earth would either fly off into space or crash into the sun, except it can't do either because motion requires time. Everything would just hang there, suspended in an impossible configuration. Here's the part that gets really philosophical. If time stopped everywhere simultaneously, there'd be no way to measure how long it stayed stopped. 1,000,000 years could pass, or 0 seconds, and there'd be no difference because passing requires time. From inside the frozen universe, the stop would be instantaneous and eternal at the same time. It would be like the universe held its breath forever, but also not at all. Recent theoretical work in quantum gravity suggests that time might actually stop and start at the smallest scales. At the Planck scale, which is about 10 to the negative 35 meters, space-time might be grainy like a film reel. Each Planck time unit, which is about 10 to the negative 44 seconds, might be a separate frozen snapshot. Time could be stopping and starting 44 trillion times per second, and we'd never notice because our brains are way too slow to perceive it. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that time branches every time a quantum event occurs, creating parallel universes. In some of those branches, maybe time did stop. Maybe there are frozen universes right alongside ours, containing versions of you stuck in an eternal moment, forever about to sneeze, or forever in the middle of a laugh. The real mindbender is this: if time stopped right now, how would you know? You wouldn't. Your last thought would be frozen mid-process. From your perspective, nothing would change because you need time to experience change. The universe could have stopped 1 billion times already in your life, frozen for eons, then restarted, and you'd never know. Every moment you think is flowing smoothly might actually be separated by eternities of frozen nothingness. Tag a friend who needs to have their reality shattered, because this is where it gets really wild. Some physicists think time stopping might actually be what happens when you die. Not that time itself stops, but that your conscious experience of time ends, trapping you in your final moment forever. From your perspective, it's like the universe's ultimate freeze frame, your personal eternal now. But here's the hopeful twist. If time is an illusion, if everything that ever was or will be already exists in some timeless mathematical structure, then, in a sense, everyone who ever lived is still alive somewhere in that structure. Your past self is still living those moments. They're not gone. They're just elsewhere in space-time. Death might not be an ending, but just a boundary in a timeless existence. The latest research into time crystals, these bizarre quantum states that repeat in time without using energy, hints that we might be able to manipulate time in ways we never imagined. Scientists have created matter that has a repeating structure in time the same way ordinary crystals have repeating structure in space. If we can create patterns in time, maybe we can control it, bend it, or even stop it locally. What this all comes down to is that time might be the universe's biggest magic trick. It feels so real, so fundamental, that imagining it stopping seems impossible. But physics keeps showing us that reality is way stranger than our intuitions suggest. Time might be nothing more than a useful story our brains tell to organize sensory information into a coherent narrative. So what happens if time stops? Everything and nothing. The universe would freeze into an eternal sculpture of itself. Consciousness would wink out, and from inside that frozen moment, it would feel like absolutely nothing happened because feeling requires time. But paradoxically, the freeze would also be eternal and instantaneous, lasting forever and not at all, because duration itself needs time to measure. This is why physics is the ultimate adventure. We're not just exploring space or matter, we're exploring the deep structure of reality itself, questioning the most basic assumptions about existence, and the answer to whether time can stop. Physics says maybe, under the right conditions, in the right circumstances, with consequences that would unmake reality as we know it. Smash that subscribe button for more reality-breaking deep dives into the impossible. Drop your wildest time theory in the comments below, and share this with anyone who's ever wondered what lies beneath the surface of now, because time might be ticking, or it might be frozen, or it might not exist at all. And the only way we'll find out is by asking these impossible questions and following where the physics leads us. The eternal now is waiting, and who knows, maybe we're already living in it.